Hello and welcome to the morning after show presented by betonline.ag. My name is Joshua Reimer. I'm joined by none other than Jared Block, who is over on my right. Jared, I know you had a good Tuesday because your Bucks won a really fun game to watch, and I can't wait to talk about that in the NBA recap. We have plenty of other things to talk about too. Some crazy NFL news that Jared's going to surprise me with. I have no clue what he's going to talk about, but I know it's going to be something fun. And then we have spring training to talk about. Going to cover some of the content that's coming up this year and some extra things that we're providing for our MLB members. And then obviously NHL blind dogs. But Jared, how else was your Tuesday outside of your Bucks getting a big win?
Tuesday was very solid. Lots of back end stuff for the baseball season. So that's pretty much going to be my story and my toss every single time that you give it to me the next couple
Yeah.
of days because we're 9 days away. And you can see Keith is actually making his way into the screen here. Because he says, "Good morning, everybody." So there you go.
There you go. Yeah, the cat would kill me if I tried to do that. So we're gonna leave her alone. She's on the windowsill right now.
Very
Eight
nice.
days away. You said 9 days. It's 8 days.
8 days away.
Nine
8 days
nine
away.
days was
Yep.
yesterday. We're almost a week out exactly. That starts tomorrow, and yeah, we're getting into some really exciting times for a new MLB season, and I'm pumped up. But we still have plenty of NBA to talk about. We still have plenty of other things to talk about too. So if you're ready, let's get to it. Let's cover a very fun day of NBA content.
Yeah, let's do it. It was a really nice small slate, but had a lot of exciting things happen to it. So
Mm-hmm.
let's start in this first game. Had a lot of games start right at 7 o'clock, and this was the first one. Bucks and Sixers. Very Sixers heavy first half, very Sixers heavy three quarters, and then the Bucks came and stormed back. Drew Holiday was really, really clutch. It felt like a playoff atmosphere. And yeah, all the stars were clicking except for one Joel Embiid.
Yeah, seriously. I mean, James Harden had a great game on the other side for the 76ers. He was doing well basically throughout the whole game. Middleton had like a huge fourth quarter, man.
Yep.
You guys are going to keep hearing about my parlay woes because talked about it yesterday, talked about how I needed those Jokic 2 points to cash a big parlay. Well, we're on the other side of things today. We had a big single game parlay from this Bucks game that ended up smashing. And
Yep.
it was I was a little worried because we're coming into the fourth quarter and Middleton, I needed over 4.5 assists. He only had two so far. And I think I needed 19 and a half points and he only had 13. So I was sweating a little bit, but the Bucks really, they had an amazing fourth quarter. That was one of the better fourth quarters I've seen from any NBA team. They really stormed back in that fourth quarter and ended up getting a big dub. How important is this win? Because we talk about playoff seeding all the time and we talk about where teams are at in the standings. This brings the Bucks up to a half a game back from the Heat now, and this brings the
Yep.
76ers 1.5 games back from the Heat. I mean, it doesn't sound like a lot, but it's a lot different than yesterday where these two teams were tied for third.
Well, right. I mean, this is everything because the Bucks go into Philly and take on the Sixers, who have been playing very well. I know they just lost the second game in a row now, but you look fast forward here, you have the Miami Heat and Boston Celtics playing today. You have the Bucks going into Brooklyn to take on the Nets on Thursday, and the Bucks and the Celtics do have to play each other sometime next week. So this was something that the Bucks needed really bad. The Sixers have probably the luckiest schedule to end the season out of any of the top seven Eastern teams. They have to face the Detroit Pistons twice and Indiana Pacers twice. Somehow they got the teams that are tanking and letting everybody shut down for the rest of the season
Obviously.
instead. So the Sixers could end up being a team that has 50 wins pretty easily, unless they falter down the stretch here, but they could be a spot where, I think that they're going to regret this loss coming down to the wire, and they could end up being the team that ends up facing the Nets in the first round.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see who that team is that's going to face off against the Nets in the first round. Obviously, one of the tougher matchups to have as a one seed that we've seen in quite a while. It feels different. It feels like how we thought the Lakers and Suns was supposed to be last year, where Suns
Yep.
filled into that 2 seed, Lakers were the 7 seed. Everyone thought, oh, the Lakers might give them a lot of problems because this team is solid when AD and LeBron are healthy. But that wasn't the case. That wasn't the case whatsoever. So should be interesting to see how all this shakes out. I kind of want to highlight Embiid here because we had Embiid as the front runner for quite a while. According to our friends
Mhm.
over at Bet Online, when you look at their MVP odds, I saw yesterday he was all the way up to minus 200, and now things have really shifted. If you go check Bet Online, go to the NBA players futures, you can see now that Jokic minus 155 in the playoff race, Joel Embiid plus 130. So you can see that this is going back and forth here, and you can see that it'll be a close race down the stretch. ESPN doesn't say so. And I guess we can start off with this a little bit too, because we talked
Sure.
about it pre-show. ESPN conducted a MVP type poll where you had 100 voters. You had two voters from each of the 28 markets, and then obviously some markets had more voters. And you had international and domestic voters as well. So lots of different guys to get a poll from, and it wasn't that close. Jokic had a clear and resounding lead. He had the most first place votes by quite a large margin, and he was ahead by I think 860 points. For those who don't know how the points work, for first, if you get a first place vote, you get 10 points. If you get a second place vote, you get 7. If you get a third place, you get 5, and then fourth you get 3, and then fifth you get 1. So
Mhm.
he's 860 points ahead. That's a pretty big margin, man.
Yeah.
That's a huge margin. So I know that we keep getting these odds that this MVP race is close, but I know you and I have both always been on the case that Jokic is that guy, and Jokic will be the back-to-back MVP.
Yep, I fully agree with you. And like I said before, I think that the Sixers' schedule will hurt Embiid down the stretch in these last 5, 6 games. They should not have to have monster performances from him to be able to win. And the Nuggets are just in a spot. Well, I mean, both teams are in a spot where they have to win and keep winning. But I'm taking a look at the Nuggets now. They do have to play the Pacers tonight in Indiana, so he should smash in that matchup. We'll talk about that later on today's podcast. They do have to face the Wolves, Lakers, Spurs, Grizzlies, and Lakers again. So, I mean, there's plenty of opportunity in there for Joker to continue to seal the deal, and I think that that's a much tougher strength of schedule than the Sixers are going to get.
Yeah, I would tend to agree that it is a much tougher one, but I think that like you said, because it's tougher, he gets to play more time. They rely on him a little bit more, and you could see some really big games, especially in that Pacers game tonight. I mean, he could go absolutely nuclear in that game. There is no one on the Pacers that can even touch that man. So
Yep.
should be interesting to watch. Let's keep it rolling. Let's move on into this next game. Talk about the Bulls facing off against the Wizards. Bulls won this one 107 to 94. You had the call on the 30 to lock show saying that this number looked lopsided. You knew how bad the Bulls have been, but it's still the Wizards at the end of the day. And you were exactly right, Jared, because I think we're Bulls were -3 over at our friends at Bet Online,
Yeah. Yep.
winning by 13 in this case. Big performance by DeRozan, which we haven't seen for a while, but 32 real life points, 7 rebounds, 4 assists. Really good output from him. Wizards just couldn't keep up. The Bulls defense almost looked like it was back too. Let me say that because I watched a little bit of this game in between TV breaks from the Bucks and 76ers game, and Bulls defense almost looks like it's back to what it was at the first half of the season.
Sure. I mean, they could circle around just Porzingis, and you pretty much have the game taken care of. So
Yeah.
as long as you're able to limit him, he did finish with a double double, but it's not really going to hurt you. And 94 points is not going to win you an NBA game in the 2022. So yeah, the defense looked better. I still think that we can both agree that they won't get anywhere without Lonzo being back, but it certainly does help when you have Caruso and Dosunmu playing around 30 minutes. I still think that they need a little bit more bench help. But at the end of the day, it was enough to get the job done here. I'm curious, as a Bulls, what depending on who they have in the matchups for the playoffs, how deep does their rotation actually go? Do they give 25 minutes to Patrick Williams? Do they play Tristan Thompson at all? Like, what are they going to do?
I would imagine you don't play Tristan Thompson. You play Patrick Williams a good chunk of minutes. You play Kobe White a good chunk of minutes. You always have. And then hopefully, I don't know what Lonzo Ball is even looking like from an injury perspective. I guess this is something more for me to look up because I don't know if you know this either. Do we even know if he's going to be potentially back for the playoffs?
I,
Or are
I
we
have no
just
idea.
Yeah, so I don't know. I see 8 days ago, Hoops Hype says that Lonzo Ball facing setback in injury recovery. So 8 days ago, they said they're pulling back Lonzo Ball's rehab for the next 10 days. So if they might not even have him for the playoffs. If they don't have him for the playoffs, let's use that scenario first. You start to Sunmu, you have the other starting forward with Caruso, Levine, DeRozan, and Vooch. You have Kobe White play big minutes off the bench. You have Patrick Williams play big minutes off the bench. And then I'm trying to think of anyone else, but I think that's about it. I think you probably go 7 deep with this rotation. Maybe you go 8 deep and get Javante Green like 10 minutes just in important parts of the game. But this will not be a deep rotation in the playoffs whatsoever.
Yeah, it's my thoughts exactly. So we'll see how it goes. But I think that their lack of depth is going to hurt them if they don't have Alonzo Ball. So we'll see. I don't expect him to come back in. I would assume that he would want to, but he's not the only player that's getting these setbacks because they're getting rushed back for the playoffs.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Anything else in this game? If not, let's talk about the Pistons and the Nets.
No, nothing. Let's continue to talk about that.
Yeah, let's talk about this game. This game was very close all the way through. I know, like we talked about early, how the Nets could run away with this one. Bet Online had this spread at 13.5 points. So a lot of the industry agreed with us that the Nets were probably just going to run away with this. But this was high scoring and little defense played on both sides. We saw the Nets win 130 to 123. And all on the back of Kevin Durant having a phenomenal game. 41 real life points, 11 rebounds, 5 assists. Looked really good, was unconscious from the 3 point line, from the free throw line, just basically everywhere. 4 for 6 from three, 9 for 9 from the free throw space. And then Kate Cunningham really kept things going for the Pistons too. 34 points in this game. Didn't do much elsewise. Only 6 assists and 1 rebound. We're not used to seeing that type of game from him. But 34 points in 32 minutes, that's a pretty successful day for the
Yep,
rookie.
it certainly is. If I'm the Nets, I'm terrified. By the way,
Yeah.
yeah. If you keep this game, just they never went away, and the only thing that separated it was a solid fourth quarter, and the third quarter scoring differential is really what sealed the deal. So, if I'm the Nets, I am terrified of what I saw last night because you had several, your starters played pretty well,
Hmm.
but then nothing else kind of happened after that, and you had again Durant, Kyrie playing almost 40 minutes in March basketball. Like this doesn't
No.
happen. So I would be very terrified if I was a Nets fan. They still are very, they're very solid. They can match up with they should be able to at least give people a run for their money at any stage of the playoffs. So I think that they're man, I have a hard time believing that they're better than they were last year, but they still this definitely is kind of weird. And again, they continue to lose the spread at home. So they only
Yeah.
lost.
Yeah.
They only won by 7, so they didn't cover.
Dang, I forgot about that. Yeah, I should have bet on it yesterday. Yeah. I mean, like, how concerning is like you talk about the bench depth of this team. We just talked about it with the Bulls. Let's talk
Yeah,
about it with the Nets now. They had 25 total points. Yeah, 25 total points from their bench, and the Pistons got 23 points from Killian Hayes and Frank Jackson. Like that, that two guys that are coming off the bench clearly. That kind of tells you everything you need to know about what this bench has been doing. Absolutely nothing. They look terrible. The death on this Brooklyn Nets team looks absolutely atrocious. And we got news yesterday from Nash that Ben Simmons has yet to be on a court
yeah.
at all and has yet to rehab. So it seems pretty safe. We're not expecting him back for the playoffs. Um, I
No,
mean,
this is
like,
definitely like if they somehow escape and manage to say like I know early on like they were one of the favorites to win the title, if not the favorite. But what do you think is a success? Like, is anything outside of going to the finals a failure this year? Because I think next year they're already planning on this being like we're going to be much better next year. Kyrie's going to play all the home games. Simmons is going to play, and we're going to be awesome. But this
yeah.
year we're kind of just relying on a bunch of old guys to play on our bench right now.
Hey, sounds like the Lakers scenario just a year ago too, right?
I
Like
mean, kind of,
it
yeah.
feels like it's the exact same thing playing out all over again. Last year was kind of like, whatever we do in the playoffs is fine. We'll come back stronger next year, and we've seen how that turned out. It didn't turn out great for the Lakers this season. So history repeats itself most of the time, and maybe this is just history repeating itself over in the Eastern Conference. Speaking of the Lakers, let's talk about the Lakers a little bit, and we can make this quick and easy, fast and simple, because I don't want to stay here long.
Put him out of his misery.
Mavericks 128, Lakers 110. Big game from Luka Doncic, triple double, 34 points, 12 rebounds, 12 assists. Looked really good. Lakers just didn't have what it took, basically, at the end of the day. Couldn't keep up with the firepower of Luka. Also, Mavericks just came out of the gate running, 43 points in the first quarter. Just torched the Lakers. We're up by like 57 to 30 or 57 to 28 at one point in the game, sometime in the second quarter. And you saw the Lakers slowly come back, but a lot of it was in garbage time, so don't give them too much credit. This kicks the Lakers out of the playoff picture. They are currently now the 11th seed. Spurs get put up into the 10th seed. We got the news that Anthony Davis plans to return either Thursday or Saturday this week. LeBron unlikely to play Thursday. How much does the AD return really mean for this Lakers team, and is it enough to push them into the play-in tournament?
You don't think it's enough.
Yeah.
You have to. When do they play the Pelicans again? It's coming up soon.
Is it coming up soon? I don't know. I gotta look at it.
No, it's not. I don't know, but LeBron being unlikely to play tomorrow against the Jazz. We'll talk about the Jazz and that disaster that happened yesterday.
Yeah.
But the Lakers they play the Pelicans on Friday night. So
There you go.
that's kind of your last head-to-head chance, and then they have to play the Nuggets twice. I don't see it, man.
Yeah, and I mean, you throw the Suns in there, you throw a
Yeah, yeah.
Warriors team that probably gets Steph back at that point, from what I'm hearing. Like it's, I don't know. You could see
Yeah.
them fall a little bit more. So I'm not thrilled as a Lakers fan. I'm ready for next season. Hopefully, it's better than this season, and I think it'd be pretty hard not to be better than this season. All right. I think that's it for this Lakers team. Or I guess let's touch on the Mavs really quickly. They're in the 4 seed, 14 and a half games back from first, but now 1 game back from the 3 seed in the Warriors. They also have the Jazz kind of breathing down their necks, but they can thank the Clippers a little bit for giving that Jazz team a loss last night. How do you feel about this Mavericks team at this point in the season?
It's hard for me to trust them, really. And they're just going to have to be really solid around Luca. And Luca is going, like, it's one of those things where they're just going to have to be, he's going to have to be literally perfect throughout the playoffs to advance.
Yeah.
The first round's going to be tougher than they think, and they'll probably escape it depending on who they get. But it's not going to be an easy test. So whoever they get should be interesting to see, because it's going to be one of the Jazz Nuggets. I don't think it's going to be anybody else. Maybe they get the Timberwolves, but they'd have to kind of crush while the Warriors lose a lot. So we'll see. But yeah, I mean, the Mavericks are a very sneaky team right now because nobody's talking about them really, and maybe it's just because they think that Luka's not enough to take everything to the finals. And I would agree with them actually, but
Yeah.
he's going to have to be perfect. He's going to have to get 30-point triple doubles in at least 3 out of 5 games early on for
Yeah.
these playoff stretches.
Yeah, I would tend to agree. So I don't know. Should be interesting. If they are facing off against the Jazz, I have the Jazz slightly favored, at least in my book. I mean, I don't know. I feel like the Jazz probably get that job done, but we'll have to see. All right, last game. Very interesting one with the Jazz and Clippers facing off against each other. We knew that Paul George is going to be back for this game, and he came back in an amazing fashion. 34 points, 2 rebounds, 6 assists, 31 minutes in this game. I guess 30, so
Yep.
I felt pretty good about that guess. This was a game that the Jazz had in control. They were up by 20 in the second quarter and in the third quarter. Seemed like they were just going to run away with this one, and then had one of the worst fourth quarters I think I've ever seen in NBA regular season March.
Yep. Yep.
Lost the scoring differential in the fourth quarter, favoring the Clippers 39 to 21. Paul George was just unconscious from 3-point range. Forget what his exact line was. I'm about to go check right now. He shot, where is it? He shot 6 for 9 from 3-point range. Like that, just an amazing night for Paul George, and
Yep.
it's encouraging to see him back and be playing at this level because he looked really, really good last night.
Yeah, we've done this a lot for the college teams and going over those Final Four matchups, but take a look at the free throws, man. 85% for the Clippers, 24 or 28. 58% for the Jazz,
Yeah,
17 for 29 at the free throw line. That's the difference right there outside of the complete defensive disaster that was the fourth quarter. They
yeah,
had the game all locked up and they underestimated it. So it's kind of annoying to have the Clippers all of a sudden turn the lights on like 1 week into the playoffs or 1 week away from the playoffs. But I'm kind of here for it. So I've seen this joke now a couple times this morning. The exact score and the exact differential came up last night. That happened when the Clippers took over and beat the Jazz in the playoffs. I believe it was last year. Um, Whenever they were down by like 30 and they came back and won, it was the
oh no,
exact same scoring differential in the third quarter as of
that
last night.
that's insane. That's absolutely crazy.
Yeah.
That's absolutely awesome. So, man, this Clippers are gonna give that one seed, whoever they are, as long as they win the playing game, they're gonna give that one seed a run for their money. I feel like it's not gonna be, it's gonna be the Suns, but feel like it's gonna be a little bit closer than people expect it to be. Maybe it is
This
a
just
gentleman's sweep.
feels
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah. No, I mean, it probably will be, but it just feels like we haven't heard anything for months about either Paul George or Kawhi, and it just feels like next week we're gonna get a report that says Kawhi Leonard suiting up for the playoffs, and then
Right?
everybody's gonna lose their minds. It's just what it feels like. I don't know.
No, I feel you. I kind of agree with that. I could definitely see something like that weird type of situation happening. Um, I know the Clippers have said they're losing optimism with the Kawhi Leonard return, but
Yeah,
if it
yeah.
does happen, man, like this Clippers team is a force to be reckoned with. We've seen it before. Those two superstars can kind of carry this team, so should be interesting to watch for sure. Let's go over some NBA power rankings before we get out of here. What do you have?
Yeah, I already told you kind of what happened, so I'm gonna start from let's just take like cut it down the middle and start from around the 20 range here.
Okay.
So we do have the San Antonio Spurs at number 20. Kind of weird because like these power rankings are a little bit all over the place considering that the Charlotte Hornets, Pelicans, Spurs 2021, 22, they are all in the playoffs. But the math doesn't really quite check out. So that was interesting at first. And now we do have the New York Knicks coming in at 19. Maybe that's due to recent play and some upsets, but they're obviously not going to make the playoffs this year. Lakers come in at number 18. I think this is just about what's on paper right now, and they also have like um, management and draft capital and that money on here as well. So that has a little bit of something to do with it. But I figured the Lakers would be a little bit farther down the list than that. Uh, their previous rank at the beginning of the year, Josh. I don't want to. I'm already kicking you while you're
Oh,
down, but
yeah.
their previous rank was number 3, and they are now number 18. Um,
Effing yikes.
yeah. Uh, Opposite side of the spectrum, previous rank of number 30, Cleveland Cavaliers come in at number 17.
Wow.
And they have a lot of draft capital coming as well. They've also been dealing with some injuries, so I would expect them to be a little bit higher. Very scary stuff for that team with Mobley and Allen dealing with things. Atlanta Hawks at number 16, Timberwolves at number 15. The Bulls come in at number 14, which is hilarious to me.
Yeah.
Um, Jazz 13, Mavericks 12, Toronto 11. A little bit surprising there, but Toronto has really turned things around after kind of being like a middle of the pack team, possibly outside looking in. Now they're, I don't know, arguably, this is all around pretty much like the 5 players that are starting. So we'll see if that can last them through the playoffs here. The Sixers come in at number 10. Golden State falls down to number 9. Brooklyn comes in at 8. The Nuggets are number 7. Clippers come in at number 6. Uh,
What?
yeah,
Why?
there's I don't know either. I'm confused. So I think that they're one of the last teams in money and draft capital. Um, I guess they're just putting a lot of stock into Paul George, Kawhi Leonard, Norman Powell, which I
I
guess
guess.
is valid. Boston comes in at number 5. That makes a lot of sense. The Bucks come in at number 4. Suns 3. Miami Heat 2. And Memphis Grizzlies number 1.
Look at that. Love to see it. Love to see my Tennessee team doing some work. Yeah, I talked about the Grizzlies all year. I feel like they're a very competent playoff team. How far are you feeling like the Grizzlies can actually get in this playoff, in this NBA playoff season?
I have a feeling that they could get screwed out of a seeding and just getting a bad matchup
Yeah.
along the way somewhere. Right now, obviously, I think the Timberwolves is not something they need to worry about. It would be a fun series. Be curious to see how healthy Ja actually is, but it doesn't seem to be affecting them right now. I don't think that there's even a mathematical possibility that the Warriors can catch up. Maybe I'm wrong. I think that
No,
there's still
there
enough.
isn't.
There's still enough games, but it doesn't really.
I mean, if
It's
they
really
lose
really
five,
low.
if the Grizzlies lose the rest and the Warriors win the rest, then I think it happens. But the likelihood of that happening is bar none, basically.
Yeah, so it just depends on how these middle seeds shake out and what happens there, because they could get a matchup that I wouldn't be stoked for, which would probably be the Nuggets. I wouldn't be
Yeah.
stoked for Memphis at that point. So, I don't know. Other than that, I don't really see anybody stopping them until they get to either the Suns or the Warriors.
Yeah, it would be really interesting to see them against the Warriors. I mean, we've seen the Grizzlies. I think they've won 3 out of the 4 matchups against the Warriors this year. So it's been a
Yeah.
good year for the Grizzlies against this Warriors team. But obviously, a playoff Steph and a playoff Clay and a playoff Draymond Green are completely different than the regular season versions of all of those athletes. So will be interesting to see how far this Grizzlies team can get, because I've always kind of put my aspirations on them at a Western Conference Finals matchup against the Suns.
Mhm.
I think it's unlikely that they win that matchup, but I think it definitely is possible and is something that you could potentially look forward to. All right, very interesting. I still just completely disagree with that Clippers one. I don't know who in their
Yeah.
right mind wrote that, but the Clippers are not that should not be that high in the power rankings.
Yeah. Again, not really based on all team stats as of right now. There's
Uh
a lot
huh.
of stuff along. Like, it's not all like, I don't think that they're really counting injuries and counting all that other stuff. But the Clippers still spent an ass ton of money, like
Yeah.
a lot. Like they are so far down the hole right now. And if this Kawhi stuff doesn't work out, then they're really in trouble. Because this year not so much, but the last 2-3 years has been all about Clippers futures, and it just hasn't happened.
Nope, it hasn't happened at all. We've seen this Clippers team kind of. I'm not going to say the Kawhi Leonard experiment has failed necessarily, because I don't think it has quite yet. But you're getting to that point where you could start calling it that. So should be interesting to see what this Clippers team is able to do, most likely without Kawhi in the playoffs. All right, let's move on to some NFL news. Let's start off with your thing first. You said you were going to say something about NFL related stuff, and I
Yeah,
want to hear it. So what do we got?
this is just a funny thing, but
Okay.
okay. The Colts owner Jim Irsay went on a press conference and called the Carson Wentz era, quote unquote, a mistake.
Oof.
Sorry, and then he goes further and says, a mistake that I couldn't wait to fix. uh,
Yikes.
for us, the fit just wasn't right. I don't know why. A lot of times you don't know why, but you know it isn't. It was important for us to move on in a different direction.
Jeez, rough day. I mean, like, they think Matt Ryan's that next guy. I guess if they are just
Man, I
going
don't
with,
know.
I mean, if they thought Philip Rivers was the move, then Matt Ryan, I guess, kind of fits that build of a Philip Rivers esque quarterback. Way back when, being 2 seasons ago. But I don't know, man. Like, I don't think Wentz was that bad. Like, again, you change that Week 18 matchup, and you have a completely different. I feel like we're not talking about Carson Wentz the same way if that Week 18 matchup ended up differently against the Jags.
Yeah, I mean they had a really bad loss to the previous week before that too, but it's I think they lost to the Ravens. I don't remember exactly,
I
but
don't either.
they lost 2 games down the stretch that they should have won, and people will point to the quarterback for the mistakes that he made, and they should have ran the ball to Jonathan Taylor a bunch, and they didn't. And I don't know, just you take away. I don't know. I've seen a lot of things that Matt Ryan is a pretty comparable quarterback to a lot of the mid-tier quarterbacks in that range, and maybe he makes less mistakes with a better offensive line and a better running game and a better defense. I mean, Matt Ryan hasn't had a good team in what, 4 years?
Yeah.
I think since the Super Bowl, that team has been pretty dog shit.
Yeah, I would tend to agree. This is definitely one of the best teams that he's gotten in recent years. So it'll be interesting. Like you said, like this is probably his best O line. This might even be a better O line than the Super Bowl team. I mean, this O
Oh,
line
it
is
definitely is.
well, this
Yeah,
is
it
one of
is.
the best O lines in the league. So like it is every season. So I don't know. Having Quentin Nelson be the anchor is always a good thing. He's an absolute animal. So should be interesting to see what Matt Ryan should be able to do. But that's funny, Jim Irsay saying that it's a complete disaster. Man, you got to be feeling some type of way this morning if you're Carson Wentz. I wonder if
Yep.
they ever face off against the Colts because that would be an intriguing matchup. Who does the NFC East face off? I think you told me they face off against the AFC South.
I
I think
think I did.
I think I remember you saying that earlier this week.
All right, I'm looking just because one, we have time, and two, this is fantastic news if it is.
Yeah,
The Colts will play Washington football team. Yeah. I don't
nice.
think they changed this to Commanders yet, but yeah, they will definitely play the games in Indianapolis.
Oh, you'll love to see it. Just to book it. Book Carson Wentz for 300 yards and 3 touchdowns. It's going to happen. All right, probably not, but who knows? That'll be a fun thing to cover when we get to that spot in the NFL season. But let's keep it moving. Let's talk about the other NFL news that we have. We got the news yesterday that it seems like crying enough for Bills fans finally pays off. NFL approves OT rules tweak for playoffs only. This is going to ensure that both sides get the ball instead of just one side getting the ball, being able to score first and then calling a game. What are your thoughts here? I mean, like we obviously the Bills situation is where this is coming from when they faced off against the Chiefs. Chiefs won the coin toss. Chiefs end up winning the game basically with winning that coin toss. Um, I don't know. I understand why they did it. I think a lot of people were rooting for this to happen, but I don't know. What are your feelings on it?
My feelings are that the Packers could have had another Super Bowl if those rules had been changed
Yeah,
earlier.
yeah,
Because people forget that they play this game all the time in Aaron Rodgers' career highlights film. Uh, yeah, I see Bacon's already giving me shit for this. It's the game against the Cardinals where Rodgers threw 2 Hail Marys in the same drive, and then
yeah.
they went to overtime. Cardinals get the ball first. Larry Fitzgerald goes for like 85 yards, and the game's over. So, yeah, I mean, I think that this is going to swing a few things in a direction that people may not. Well, they might like the decision now, but I feel like it could change some things when next January comes along for some teams, and it might actually backfire in the Bills situation, even though they wanted it. By the way, they weren't the team that actually came up with this. I think it was the Colts and the Eagles.
Oh, really? Interesting. I mean, like, yeah, they might have came up with it, but we know that Bills fans were the ones that really wanted it. Like, the Bills fans were the one that
Yeah,
were,
for
yeah.
sure.
Anyway, we found out from Goodell yesterday that Deshaun Watson could still face discipline. I find the could part interesting. Like, is there a chance? I understand that a majority of people think he's not going to play in September. Probably not even going to play in October. Might get 6 or 8 games for all the
Yeah,
civil suits that he had to deal with. Um,
right.
but the word could. I know it's like kind of just letting Goodell leave it open. Do you think there's any shot that Watson's able to play week one?
No, I don't think he plays. I don't think he plays September. I don't think he plays October. I do think that he sees about half a season. I think that 8 games, in many people's eyes, is probably still not enough, but I think that's what they'll give him.
Yeah, I would agree with that it's not enough for sure. Jaguars sign another free agent. That free agent is Arden Key from the 49ers defensive pass rush. I love Arden Key. I'm very savvy to let him go, but cap
Yep.
is the cap at the end of the day. This is a good signing for the Jags in my book. I understand that that defensive front is really elevated just because of Shanahan's coaching, and we always have a good DC. But I think Arden Key is truly talented, and so I'm excited to see him somewhere else where he could get more playing time because I know he wasn't a full time player with the Niners.
Yeah, they've overpaid most of their free agents. This is not an overpay. This is definitely a good signing for them. Really interested to see because I think that this is the most any team has spent in free agency. It's definitely the highest mark, but it's been the first team to do it over a certain number since like 2012. And I'm just curious how that's going to look because I just don't see I really just don't see it translating. Like it's not even that you paid a lot of money. You just paid a lot of money to players that maybe didn't deserve it. So
Yeah.
um, you look and compare Miami and Jacksonville, and you can argue that like they definitely signed similar. They took an approach of we're going to basically redo our skill player room, and they did it. But yeah, obviously the Miami side looks a lot more sweeter now than the
Yeah.
Jaguars does.
Yeah, it truly does look a lot sweeter now. So I don't know. Should be interesting to watch. Let's continue talking about NFL news. Malcolm Jenkins found out that he's retiring after his 13-year career. 13-year career that also featured 2 Super Bowl wins. So good stuff for Malcolm Jenkins for sure. Other big news: the Saints have added Andy Dalton and have announced that Taysom Hill no longer a QB. We're not getting Taysom Hill QB days anymore. Taysom Hill will now be back to the tight end position. I mean, the Andy Dalton signing is very interesting. What do you think this means for the Saints team? Do you think they're not going to
Yeah.
start Dalton? Dalton's a backup QB at the end of the day. So is it going to be
Right.
Winston, or is Dalton's kind of like a veteran signing to help along a rookie QB that they potentially draft?
Yeah, the Dalton signing is very interesting. It makes me laugh at the Bears organization a little bit. They've obviously chosen Justin Fields, but they chose Nick Foles over Andy Dalton, probably because of money, I would
Yeah,
guess. So I still think that Dalton is in this case now, one of the best backup QBs that the league has to offer. He could still start if he has to, and I don't think that they know if Jameis Winston's ready all the way yet, and they obviously aren't comfortable with Taysom Hill being the guy to play backup QB. Will he still go out there and run gadget stuff? Absolutely. I mean, I know Sean Payton's not there anymore, but they will use Taysom Hill in those ways because they just paid him too much money to do that or to just have him play tight end. Uh, I can't even see him playing just tight end. So there's something
yeah.
more there, but they'll call him a tight end for now. Andy Dalton could start some games for this team this season, just depending on what happens with all the other stuff they've got going on.
Yeah, for sure. Just a really quick update on Alvin Kamara because see Bacon asking. He said one name I haven't heard much on is Alvin
Yeah.
Kamara. What's happening there? The only thing I know was a few weeks ago. Actually, it was a while back. I think it was like 3 weeks ago. He wasn't present for his court case hearing. His lawyer was present for him. But they're expecting a plea deal here, and there was no plea deal entered for the
Yep.
first court hearing. So still could happen. But without the plea deal, like things don't look good. So I don't know. What's his chances of playing this year? Forget Watson. We know he's going to play at some point this season. Do we even think Alvin Kamara plays this season?
Uh, I don't want to like get into big politics here, but I feel like the Watson stuff is going to get a bigger penalty than Kamara
Really?
as well.
I
Yeah,
just
possibly. I
yeah.
don't know. You add in that, you add in what's happening with Michael Thomas. We haven't heard anything about him. The Saints are not in a good spot right now.
Yeah, the Saints are definitely not in a good spot right now. That is for sure. All right, let's keep going. Let's cover the rest of the stuff that we need to cover. And over to spring training we go. 8 days until the MLB season starts. Just wanted to give you guys a little cover on what we're doing this year, since I know I've been reaching out to people, and some people don't really know exactly what we're doing for this MLB season. Something that's never been done in company history. We've always provided FanDuel cash game lineups for only early only slates, Monday through Friday, and also on the weekends. We're not going to do it on the weekends anymore, but Monday through Friday, you can expect cash game content for DraftKings and FanDuel, and you can expect GPP content for DraftKings and FanDuel. First time that we've done it for both GPP and cash game. First time that we've introduced DraftKings content for the early only slates. And that's on top of obviously providing the usual stuff for FanDuel and DraftKings on the main slates too. So it's I'm not going to say it's doubling your content. If you get all access, it is nearly doubling your content though.
Yep. Yep. And on top of that, we don't want to get too far into things here, but we are almost 1 week out. Expect 2 or 3 more pretty big announcements at the start of next week.
Yeah, it's going to be exciting. We have a few more things up our sleeve. Not everything has been announced yet, and it's going to be a good time. So make sure to keep an eye out for everything going on the MLB side of things. Let's talk about some MLB news, though. Talk about how Trevor Bauer files for a defamation suit against the Athletic, and I forget the reporter. Her name, I think her first name's Molly, but I don't remember her full name. Interesting, man. I didn't get to read fully into this. I saw it on Twitter yesterday a little bit, but didn't get to look any deeper into it. Did you get to look any deeper into it?
Not much. I have seen a lot of Trevor Bauer slander though, in terms of like people just. I guess it goes deeper than him. Uh, the last couple of things of drama that we've seen from him lately. But it goes back to like high school, grade school, college stuff that was uncovered that he didn't want covered or that he didn't want coming to the surface. There's some depression issues and other things that have affected the way that he views the game right now, I guess. So a lot of weird things coming out, but it's I'm not really sure what this means because we forget that he's actually on this Dodgers squad right now.
Yeah, you're right. We do forget all the time that he's on this Dodger squad, and he's given administrative leave right now. Who knows how long that's going to end up lasting? So we'll just have to wait and see there. Astros did not give the starting nod, the opening day nod, to Verlander like we expected them to.
Yep.
Ended up going a different direction here. Kind of shocked me because I thought Verlander was just going to be the guy, but that is not so.
Nope. Verlander is not going to start. We actually do have salaries and starting pitchers for the. Well, I don't think that Houston's actually announced this yet. Maybe they have. Right now, the only pitcher that they have announced is Shohei for this game. They do have to face off against Shohei game one.
Yeah,
So
rough.
Uh, I think Verlander, they've shown a lot of hype of him being ready to go. Maybe they just didn't want to give him opening day, which is kind of weird. Maybe they want to give him the home opener. I don't know, but they don't have a current starting pitcher slated for game one yet.
Yeah, it kind of blows my mind the fact that they don't have that starting pitcher yet, but they're coming out and saying that Verlander isn't the guy. He said that he's okay with it, so at least we know there's no personal beef for him. But yeah, I don't know. He's had a great spring. Hasn't allowed a run in like 8 innings that he's pitched so far. So like he has had one of the best springs that we've seen. Um,
Yep,
but just not translating to an opening day start. So it should be interesting to see when he does start because maybe we get old Verlander back even after that Tommy John surgery. All right, man, we're talking about Verlander. We're talking about starting day pitching. I kind of want to talk about your Brewers pitchers, but but we won't here because I know we don't have a ton of time. We do know that O'Neal Cruz, a very touted prospect for this Pirates team, will not start in the majors for the Pirates at least early on this year. What are your thoughts on this?
yeah, one of the bigger prospects in the game as of right now. Not surprising. It's okay. We'll probably see him. I would expect to see him in like May, or maybe we get him in June. But he should. He seems like a guy that's going to start probably half the year in a Pirates uniform this season.
Yeah, for those who don't know, he's a shortstop. Like you said, really, really talented. Number 13 prospect on the ESPN's list. So he's one of the bigger guys that are
Yep,
like ready to get into the MLB. So should be interesting to see how that turnover looks. And the Pirates need a shortstop, man. I mean, I remember last year
they
like
do.
Cole Tucker starting at shortstop. So they desperately need a shortstop. And that left side of the infield is starting to look really promising with Key Brian Hayes and O'Neal Cruz. I mean, this is a solid team. So I don't know. Could see the Pirates return to some type of prominence somewhat soon. All right, let's. That's the end of spring training. Do you have anything else for MLB? If not, we have some blind dogs to pick.
I don't have much, but again, FanDuel has released their main slate content for next week Thursday, and I'm just checking right now because I know we have just an extra minute or so. I'm just wondering because I haven't heard anything about MLB on DraftKings. Nope, still not posted yet, unfortunately.
Maybe they're waiting for that week out. Just waiting for tomorrow to come around. That way, so you're
Maybe.
officially 7 days away. I don't know.
I would just like to know what we're dealing with here, but I like what FanDuel did actually jumping the gun early.
Yeah, me too. I'm appreciative, at least for our planning, that we get to know a little bit earlier over there because definitely different if you're dealing with a full day slate or anything else. All right, let's do hockey. Let's do blind dogs. I lost last night, Jared. I lost a crushing defeat of Hurricanes losing in OT to the Tampa Bay
Oh
Lightning,
no.
3-4. Rough day at the office. Back-to-back L's for me. I don't know how you did because I don't remember what team you picked because we were rushed
Yeah.
yesterday. But
I picked the Colorado Avalanche over the Calgary Flames, and they won 2-1.
oh my goodness, Jared's on a hot streak. Watch
Yep.
out, gents. All right, so I'm on the cold streak now. You're on the hot streak. We'll give you first pick here. Who are you taking for your dog today?
Okay. I will take the. Give me the Seattle Kraken at home plus 147.
Hey, let's go. Let's go Seattle teams, always. Seattle Mariners, Seattle Kraken, doesn't matter. Always the Seattle team. We're going to go with Detroit Red Wings against the Rangers. Home dogs always end up winning, so let's do it. Plus 126 there on Bet Online. All right, Jared, any final thoughts before we get out of here?
No final thoughts, really. Just 8 days to go until MLB. We'll have a lot more updates as the days tick on, and we're only a few days away from Final Four.
Yeah, man. Only what, 3 more days away until Final Four, and I get to sweat out that Duke team. Oh man, that's gonna be tough. I don't know how I'm gonna handle myself, but yeah, plenty of exciting stuff going on. Kind of not. I'm not gonna say a boring weekend necessarily, but no UFC this weekend, no F1 this weekend. Basketball and obviously Final Four stuff this weekend. So should be interesting. Should be a lot of fun. But let's get out of here, Jared. As always, my name is Joshua Reimer. Good morning and good skill.